Hello everybody, it's Q again and welcome to YouTube's most underproduced, wickedly sorrowful Amiga channel. Here we cover the 3D and 2D softwares, the amazing creative apps of the Amiga, and as always this is another entry into the Lightwave area. And as you can see, I have the program Modeler loaded. You're used to seeing the other program, Layout. The Lightwave package includes two things, a layout and a modeler. They separated the two, probably back in the day for memory reasons, would be my guess. And then it's stuck ever since. Flash forward 25 years later, and they were still separated. Which ultimately kind of led to its falling out amongst professionals, the limitations of having them separated. But that's an entire other story. I want to thank you again for all watching and putting up with my shenanigans. I know my channel can be extremely frustrating. It's not professionally produced and often rambly, but those of you that continue to watch, I'm glad you get something out of it. I enjoy doing it. I have fun. And again, a big shout out to everybody on the Commodore Amiga Facebook group. Thank you for all of your help and comments. And here we go. So what am I doing in Modeler? This is a program I actually don't have a lot of experience with. I'm a professional visual effects artist, and I don't have a lot of experience in modeling programs. That might shock that might shock you, or it may not. I don't know. I specialize. But the reason I'm in here is because I wanted to show you some super basic things, because what I wanted to cover was how to do displacements. I kind of covered it quickly in my Apple Water video, which was somewhere down in the Lightwave playlist area, little apple floating on the water. But this time, I didn't really kind of go over it in detail. Like I just kind of showed you water, and I think I mentioned that I used displacement. But what we're going to do here is click on here, the box, and we're going to drag out, holding down the left mouse button, and clicking and holding, a box. And then, let me move it around a bit here. And then we're going to hit enter, or return, I'm sorry, return on the Amiga keyboard. And then you're going to use Shift D. And this is going to bring up the subdivide. So we need to subdivide this sucker out so that when we add this displacement, and what displacement is, you know, it's taking a flat plane, okay, like a flat piece of ground, and adding hills to it. Again, I'm trying to use simple terminology because I understand that a lot of people watching these have never even opened a 3D program before. So I'm always trying to remember in my head, Q, remember to talk in simpler terms. Don't just use industry terms, because people look at you like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Why are you talking about normal displacement and tangential polygon animation? It's like, no. So flat ground, and you want to add hills to it, okay? So you need to subdivide, and what subdivide means is you need to give that flat ground enough polygons, enough of these little squares you're seeing on the screen, so that those squares can be pushed and pulled to form hills. Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. And it looks, you know, you'll be like, what happened? So we're going to subdivide it. So we're going to use, it says faceted, smooth, and metaform. There's various modes. The metaform option is pretty cool because it tries to make more of these polygons in a way that blend together or look more seamless and smooth. Kind of like Smooth does, but this does it even more. It uses awesome math. It kind of, it'll take like a low-res Quake 1 or Half-Life video game model and make it kind of look like a Half-Life 2 model, and it'll smooth it out. But we're not going to do that. We're going to stick to faceted, the most basic way to do it. And in fact, still use this to this day. We're going to do it once, and there you go. Now you see 1, 2, 3. Our one polygon, our one little ground here became 4 little grounds. And guess what? We're going to Shift D again and do it again. And then we're going to do it again. And then we're going to do it again. It's starting to get a little sluggish. I got to be remembering here that this is a 68060 Amiga 1200 and not a modern PC. This might be enough. What I'm going to do next is hit Shift T. And what this does is triangulates that mesh. Now, normally you don't want to do this because once you've done this, as you can see, oh my gosh, look at all of this stuff. How am I ever going to go in here and edit anything? How am I ever going to go to like this polygon mode, which is our little squares, right? And click and start selecting things. This is a mess. There's like little, oh my goodness. If I wanted to like move this myself up and make my own little hill. Look at that. That's just a nightmare. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, that sucks. So you want to save triangulation as the last step if possible. But because this is the last step that we're doing, it's okay. And you don't have to worry about it. I need to triangulate it so that when it gets displaced, when we make our little hills, these triangles will make the shading, the smoothing of those hills look more natural. Without the triangulation, the hills will shade in a way that looks strange. Like you'll get these weird harsh lines and you'll be like, why is it doing that? Well, it's because you didn't triangulate it. Another thing, because I haven't used this software in, I don't know, forever, I'm currently battling how to deselect the tool. There we go. Okay, so when you're in, so by the way, I just skipped a bunch of steps. You're like, what is he doing? So down here you have point, polygon, and volume. Point mode lets you pick individual points. Look at that. Because I clicked in this, this facing view, as they call it, which I guess is like the right view, it picked the entire row of polygons, or sorry, points. All right. And then if I go to polygon mode, it's going to drop those points. And now you can pick the individual polygons. And then if you use like here where it says position, I use shortcuts because I'm doing this from memory. T is move, Y is rotate. So I click T and it changes the little gadgets. See how this looks like a fancy crosshair now? And then I moved it. So I clicked, hold down left mouse button, clicked, and I moved it up. Yay, look at that. And then I went over here and I undid that. So to get out of this move, like you see this crosshair, this fancy crosshair, it's like, okay, that's great. How do I get out of this? You hit the space bar, and that'll take you back to normal. And there you go. And then what we can do is, I'm going to pick some of those again. And then again, I got to apologize, guys. It's been a while trying to zoom. I'm going to go to, here we go, zoom. Okay. You can follow along with me. I clicked zoom, and I see a magnifying glass. I'm going to zoom in here. Okay, why am I doing that? Now to get out of the zoom tool, spacebar. I'm doing this because see how these little poles are here? That's not going to show up in your render. Those poles don't show up in your render. These poles are letting you know which direction these polygons face. So if this little circle area I'm doing up here was like a camera and it was looking down here, these little lines let you know you're going to see this polygon, okay? If I press the F key or flip, those little lines are facing the wrong way now. You're not going to see them. You're going to see like ground, 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 and then there'll be a hole. So that's what these little lines are telling you. So I'm going to hit flip, the F button again. And when you created this polygon, Lightwave in all of its brilliance creates it upside down, not facing up. So I just went ahead and pressed F and flipped the whole darn thing. Now, we're in zoom mode right now. We kind of zoomed in and everything's kind of weird. If you press the A button on the keyboard, it brings it back out. It's like auto-centering the view. So now we have this amazing looking polygon with lots of triangles on it. The next thing you're going to do is press Q. Hey, press Q. Everyone loves to press Q. This is how you assign a material to it. A material is the way you can color and shade and put images and pictures and textures on these polygons. And we're going to call it thing. And you can even go in here and pick some initial settings. You can be like, well, I want it to be, I don't know, some yellow, maybe a little more like a brown. Okay. And it's glossy, and it's specular, and it's diffuse. Now, I described these in previous videos, but we're going to keep the diffuse at 100%, and specular, we're not going to bother with any of that right now. So all this glossy stuff down here, this doesn't do anything if specular is set to 0, so you don't have to worry about it. And now smoothing. Smoothing is going to take our little happy triangles here, and it's going to make them look smooth when we turn them into hills. Without smoothing, the hills will have sharp angles, and it'll look like, you know, Tron World or an old, you know, Quake game where all the polygons are harsh and angular. So smooth will do that. And this number controls how much of that smoothing effect you're going to apply. Now I can get into how this number actually works and all the cool math behind it, but just know the higher this number, the more smoothing, the lower the number, the less smoothing. And you generally don't want to go past 89.5, all right? Remember earlier too when I mentioned the little poles, the little lines showing the direction of the polygons, whether you could see them or not? Well, if you did somehow mess that up, or who knows, right? This button here called double-sided, yes, they thought of us. You can click this button, and now you're going to be able to see those polygons no matter which way they're facing. So that's a cool little workaround. So now we're going to go ahead and say apply. And then we're going to go to Objects, Save As. And I'm just going to be really sloppy and just put it out here in the root. And I'm going to call it Thing. And I'm going to add myself. You don't have to do this on Amiga, but I do it just to get in the habit of adding extensions to things. .lwo. That keeps it consistent with other versions of Lightwave, like on the PC or the Mac, or back in the day, the SGI. So we're going to have this extension here so we know what it is. Thing. Okay, and that's been our time in Modeler. Isn't it great? So now we're going to quit, and you're going to see color bars because Modeler this whole time has been running in a screen mode that I could not mode promote, sadly. Modeler requires a very specific amount of pixels to run, and unfortunately the Amiga productivity mode I am mode promoting in does not give it the pixel it needs. If you have an Amiga with RTG, you of course could pick a nice larger screen mode. You could pick something like 800 by 600 or 1024 by 768. And I honestly would recommend that because it'll give you a much larger canvas to work with in this program. So we're going to go ahead and hit quit. Isn't it great that nothing's crashed yet? I think that's really awesome, by the way. So now we're going to go to, so now here this is the mode promoted workbench. Well, it's not mode promoted, I'm sorry. I'm using the multi-scan productivity mode in workbench to help reduce the flicker, as I discussed in the previous video. Lightwave is now going to open up, and we shouldn't have any color bars because it's using the same screen mode because I'm using mode promotion. We're now going to go to Object, Load, and we're going to find our little thing. There's Thing, Open Thing, boink. There's Thing. We're then going to go to the view. We're going to look at the camera view. So now we're seeing what the camera is looking at. We're going to go to Edit. We want to move the camera, and it already defaults to move. And again, you're going to right-click on the mouse button and hold it. And that's going to take you up. See how it goes up? And this is one of the amazing things about Lightwave or the layout program. It's so easy to navigate. Then you're going to left-click and hold and push forward. It's almost like you're a cameraman walking around a scene in real life. I love this. This is so great. And what I'm going to do here, this is strictly for illustration. This is not about me trying to create art or be stylistic. We're going to click Rotate, left button, click and hold, or rotate the camera around so that we can see our amazing polygon. Yay, it's so amazing. Let's go to the camera. Let's set this to square pixels. Well, we won't use any anti-aliasing. We're going to turn our resolution down like I always mention. And of course, we're going to use that juicy, yummy, always thick and delicious Ham 8 mode. So we're going to press the F9 button to show a render. Again, I apologize for the color bars. This is because it's switching Amiga screen modes. Look at that. It's amazing. There's our brown polygon with no speck on it, because remember we set it to 0, so it's just a diffuse brown polygon. Back to the electric color Dreamcoat bars. And let's go to Object. Let's get the sucker displaced. So now you're like, yeah, what do you mean displacement? So Displacement Map under the Object tab. We'll click here, and you can use image maps. You can use fractal noises and procedurals, the little randomly generated math things I've referred to in other videos. We're going to use fractal bumps. Now this is Lightwave 5.0, and it came with a very basic set of these procedurals for certain parts of the program. Here we get ripples, which is like water rippling, and we get fractal bumps, which is good for doing like little hills. So we're not going to touch anything. We're just going to add that and then say use. And then we have to click here, click back. Boink! Look at that. We got mountains now. Yay, mountains! Now those are pretty extreme, right? But look how fast you made mountains. Let's go ahead and press the F9 button and take a look at those mountains as we fly through the miracle of color bars. And as you can see here, we're getting our mountains. And now we have smoothing turned on, and that's why in some of these areas you're seeing kind of a nice, shaded, smooth look. But then you get to areas over here and it's kind of like, ooh, what's that? That's a hard, really hard line. So what this is a sign of is two things. One, you don't have enough of these polygons. There's not enough of those little squares for this to make these mountains in a nice smooth way. Secondly, your setting to make these mountains is too aggressive. It's too high. And yes, it is. This is extreme. This is like a giant valley. This is like something you might see in Vista Pro, the other program I've talked about. But again, you could keep this if this is what you wanted, but you would need to add a lot more polygons to this. What's the downside of adding a lot more polygons? Well, it's going to take a lot longer to render. So let's not do that. Let's reduce the displacement intensity. So we go back to objects, and now our little D is yellow, letting us know it's in use. Click here, and see where it says texture amplitude? Let's turn this down. Let's set it to like 0.1. Press enter. We're going to leave frequencies. That's basically the amount of detail in that displacement. We'll leave it at 3. You notice we haven't touched size or anything else. And we'll click continue, and boink. Well, that's nice. That's a little more like a rolling hills there. That's something usable. You could have fun with that. So we'll press the render button again. Look at that. And now our displacement setting versus our polygon count is far more happy. So now we have nice, smooth, rolling hills. That's cool, right? Yeah, look at that. We got some hills. We can do stuff with that. Now where it gets a little tricky, and I'm hoping I remember how to do all this. We want to animate this because I want to show you how to make it move like if it was water. Not land, but like water, like I had in my Apple video. That's what you can see right here. There's a texture velocity. You have texture size, and this is the size. If I make this smaller, then the little ripples and mountains you see will get more noisy and smaller. If I make it larger, you can make it so large that all of a sudden it doesn't look like it's doing anything, because now it's so large that all it can show you is one big flat plane. So we're going to leave that alone for now. We're going to go to velocity, and what this is going to do, as you can tell, is right here. It's going to do units per frame. So Lightwave, this is before, SI and, metric and English. They just units. They work in units. So I'm not 100%, my memory is great on this, but I think 1 unit is based on the grid size. There's little, so if you look at my mouse pointer here, one of these squares is a unit. So it's going to do, if you set 1, I believe it will move this square over 1 square in 1 frame. So if we go from frame 0 to frame 1, this square will go pop, it'll move over, which is pretty fast, right? So I'm going to animate, we're going to focus on only 1 channel. We have X, Y, and Z here. We're going to focus on Y. And why are we focusing on Y? Why, you may ask, indeed. Y is the up and down in Lightwave. I know in every other engineering program, Z is up. Lightwave was one of those early programs where they did Y is up, all right? So that's one thing you may have to wrap your brain around, is that in Lightwave, it's a Y up program. So if we want something to go up, we use Y. So we're going to do, let's say, 0.2, hit enter, and click OK. Now, I am not absolutely certain what's going to happen if I make a preview with this. So we're going to make a preview, and the first thing we need to do is go to Options, Layout View, and let's just make sure we can see our preview, right? So it says Bounding Point Box Polygon Threshold. This is letting you know how many polygons, how many of those little squares it's going to show on the screen before it stops showing them. It'll just turn it into a giant box, okay? So it's set to 1,000. Our object has 512 polygons, so about half the limit. So we should be able to see this if we make a preview. So we'll hit Make Preview, and we're going to say 30 frames, and we're going to say wireframe. Now, if this is horrifically slow, I'll stop. Let's see what happens. Well, it's not slow. We have a 68060 accelerator. Look at that. And you can see the preview building, and in the corner, you see the little frame counter down here. And you can actually see it making it. So what it's doing right now, it's calculating that motion, and it's moving all those polygons around. Now, the scene is set to 30 FPS, so that's fine. We'll hit play, and now you can see our wiggling water or wiggling land. That's displacement in Lightwave. I mean, that at its most basic, you've just now learned displacement. That's how you do it. That's how you can create water or cool ripple effects or lots of other wacky things, especially if you use images or image sequences. If you look at this, you might tell yourself, well, gosh, what if I use an image sequence of like an expanding donut image, right? Like you took like a circle of a donut, black and white, and then you just made the donut get larger and larger and larger. and then you use it as an image for this displacement to drive it, yeah, you'll get this cool like expanding donut rippling through your ground. So that's kind of cool. Right there. Now that is a little fast, by the way. If I wanted to do like a more chill water, I would do that slower. Let's switch to ripples and see what that looks like, huh? Again, we'll switch to ripples. It's going to retain the amplitude setting you had chosen before, but everything else will have new settings in here. Continue. Ah, look at that. That looks really bizarre. You're like, well, that's no fun. Ripples requires a lot of polygons because it's trying to simulate rolling waves of water. You know, like the rolling wave effect of a sine wave, or like water drops in the rain, that type of thing. So it takes a lot of polygons. I'm going to try and increase its size here to see if maybe we can get it to look better with the polygons we have. Okay, so they got a little better there. And if we go ahead and make a preview, now we've got our ripples. And ripples is a lot of fun for doing water because it does kind of give you that, you know, multiple motion thing going on. Before with the noise we were using, we were just getting the up and down, the Y motion to try and simulate moving water. Ripples kind of goes crazy and gives you multiple things here. And you can see it kind of goes nuts. In fact, you know, this could be good for like a blowing flag in the wind. That's a use for this. So that's the ripples one. But again, I want to show you how easy displacement in Lightwave actually is, and how I did the water for the apple water. So there's ripple, and that honestly that's about it. I mean, again, you can do a lot more stuff if you use the image sequences here, like planar map, cylindrical map. I've covered that in previous videos. You can use a texture file, or to use the simpler term, you can use a picture to make this stuff, you know, displace and do something. You could spell your name out, and if you had enough of these polygons, it would actually, you could do like a displaced version of your name sticking out of the ground. So I hope that makes sense and gives you some basic understanding of, first, how to create some simple polygons in the modeler program, how to apply a surface to them or a material, and then actually how to put displacement on them to make them do something neat other than you just moving this polygon around and making it do stuff. Displacements are pretty darn powerful and a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you for watching. This was a shorter video finally. Hope to make more soon. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you again.